China's great opportunity to end the economic crisis. What is happening in China is a textbook example of how a financial crisis plays out. Problems in one location caused failures everywhere, and the resulting anxieties and lack of trust rendered the system incapable of functioning efficiently or supporting economic development at all. The economic difficulties have clearly had an economic impact. Weakness is already visible in China's economy, which, despite further government infrastructure expenditure, is on track to fall far short of this year's already decreased real growth target of 5.5%. But the real question is whether China will be able to put a halt to this. So, let us examine China's great opportunity to end the economic crisis. The country may not be experiencing high inflation like the US or the UK, but it is experiencing other issues. The world's factory has suddenly found fewer customers for its products both domestically and internationally. Trade tensions between China and major economies like the United States are also stifling growth. All of this is happening at a time when President Xi Jinping is expected to secure an unprecedented third term at the Communist Party Congress, which begins on October 16th. China's financial crisis is escalating. In this latest phase, Chinese banks anticipating massive loan losses have taken dramatic steps to increase their loan loss reserves, tapping China's bond markets for 30% more funds than they did last year. The bank's problems are hardly surprising. They are in fact just another step in the escalating crisis that began over a year ago, when the massive property developer Everglade announced that it could no longer support $300 billion in liabilities. Back then, Beijing clearly didn't understand what was going to happen and refused to act quickly or completely enough to stop the escalating series of failures that has since characterized Chinese finance. These failures and the crisis in general will spread until Beijing takes more decisive action. The property sector in China accounts for 1/3 of total economic output. This includes housing, rental, and brokerage services, as well as industries that manufacture white goods for use in apartments and construction materials. However, China's economy has been slowing. In the most recent quarter, it grew by only 0.4% over the previous year. Some economists believe that there will be no growth this year. This is largely due to Beijing's zero-COVID strategy, which has resulted in repeated lockdowns and ongoing restrictions on income, and as a result, savings and investments. Because of the size of China's economy, a disruption in a critical market such as real estate can have a ripple effect on the global financial system. It all depends on policy, says Ding Shang, Standard Chartered's head of Greater China Economic Research. Unlike in other parts of the world where property bubbles burst due to market forces, this is government-inflicted. 30 real estate companies have already missed foreign debt payments. The most high-profile casualty is Everglade, which defaulted on its $300 billion debt last year. S&P has warned that if sales do not improve, more companies may follow suit. Demand for housing is also not increasing as China undergoes a demographic shift, with urbanization and population growth slowing. The biggest COVID-related shock to hit the nation since the initial epidemic in Wuhan in 2020 is the lockdown that has been placed in Shanghai, the country's largest metropolis by population, since March 28th. It worked effectively in 2021, but failed to limit the highly contagious Omicron variety, despite Shanghai's long-lauded viral mitigation strategy's goal of minimizing economic impacts. A level never before witnessed in China's previous epidemics. Local daily reported cases in the local area on April 7th were close to 20,000. Shanghai, home to the world's largest port, a national financial hub, and some cutting-edge manufacturing capabilities, claims greater economic importance than perhaps any other city in China. The nation's economic outlook and COVID-19 mitigation policy will be shaped by its impasse as a result. The demand shock, however, will be greater in Shanghai, China's largest consumer market, where household consumption as a share of GDP is higher than the national average. According to the EIU, lost consumption will cost Shanghai 3.9% of its full-year GDP in real terms, resulting in a 0.15% drag on China's growth in the same year. We anticipate that the aggregate annual impact on Shanghai will exceed 6% of its real GDP, causing the city to enter a full-year recession. If both the local economic loss and the spillover effects are considered, the national economy will experience a 0.4% shock at the very least. The 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China was suggested to be held in Beijing on October 16th at a significant meeting of the party on Tuesday. According to Xinhua News Agency, the meeting was led by CPC Central Committee General Secretary Xi Jinping. The 20th CPC National Congress is significant because it will lay out the strategy for the following 5 years, which are crucial for China's internal development and further reform. Accordingly, Zhang said, establishing the political and organizational foundations is crucial for the thorough building of a modern socialist nation. According to Yang, the international community will observe how the CPC continues to support better global governance and preserve world peace and stability. According to Xinhua, the Congress will formulate action plans and major policies, mobilize all party members and people from all ethnic groups across the country, and strengthen historical initiative, innovate on the basis of what has been done, and charge ahead bravely. According to Xinhua, all party members and people from all ethnic groups will be mobilized to continue advancing the five-sphere integrated plan and the four-pronged comprehensive strategy in a coordinated manner, pushing forward common prosperity for all, advancing the great new project of party building, and promoting the building of a community with a shared future for humanity. As the world undergoes unprecedented changes, the Congress will make critical decisions and may modify existing policies, according to Yang. China's COVID control policies have meant tight borders, mandatory mass testing, invasive digital surveillance, forced quarantines, and sudden lockdowns, often of entire cities since the outbreak's inception. She stated at the 20th Party Congress that China's approach prioritizes people and lives above all else. He gave no indication that China's stringent COVID regulations would be relaxed anytime soon. By waging a full-fledged people's war to stop the virus spread, we have protected people's health and safety to the maximum extent feasible and made extremely encouraging advancements in both epidemic response and economic and social growth, he said. According to figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Monday, retail sales and industrial output increased by 2.7% and 3.8% respectively, as compared to the same period last year, which was less than analysts had predicted and down from the previous month. In June, industrial output increased by 3.9% and retail sales increased by 3.1%. Fixed asset investment, which includes investments in machinery, real estate, and buildings, again fell short of forecasts, increasing 5.7% in the first 7 months of the year. In July, the national unemployment rate decreased 0.1 percentage points from June to 5.4%, while the rate for young people are hit a record high of 19.9%. If China is under lockdown, that's bad for us too. China is the world's largest exporter and accounts for 12% of global trade, so whether you like it or not, the USA and Europe need China to get back to normal in order to relieve supply constraints and support the recovery of their economies. You may have noticed China's cover on the cover of Time magazine. According to figures released on Tuesday by the industry regulator, China produced 30% of the world's manufactured goods in 2021, up from 22.5% in that year as the sector got larger and more powerful. The manufacturing value-added output increased from 16.98 trillion yuan, about $2.5 trillion in 2012, to 31.4 trillion yuan in 2021, according to Xin Guobin, Vice Minister of Industry and Information Technology. The 2-year-old regulatory campaign on China's internet giants is having little effect. In the most recent quarter, Tencent and Alibaba both experienced a decrease in revenue for the first time. Meanwhile, Tencent's profit plummeted by 50% and Alibaba's net income decreased by 50%. Tens of thousands of young workers have lost their jobs, adding to the employment crisis in which 1 in 5 people between the ages of 16 and 24 is unemployed. Long-term, this may have negative effects on China's productivity and growth. Investors have seen a change in Beijing as some of the country's most prosperous private enterprises have become the subject of more scrutiny as Mr. Xi's hold on power has widened. Foreign investors are withdrawing money from the market as state-owned enterprises seem to be gaining favor. SoftBank of Japan withdrew a large sum of money from Alibaba, while Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is selling its stake in BYD, an electric vehicle manufacturer. Tencent has withdrawn over $7 billion in investments in the second half of this year alone. Furthermore, the United States is cracking down on Chinese companies that are listed on the American Stock Exchange. Some investment decisions are being delayed and some foreign companies are seeking to expand production in other countries, said S&P Global Ratings in a recent note. The world has grown accustomed to the fact that Beijing may not be as open for business as it was once, but Mr. Xi is jeopardizing China's economic success in recent decades. More than anything, this is a leadership reorganization event. This time around, there are expected to be a number of changes and retirements which will usher in new leadership. However, one person is expected to remain in that position, Xi Jinping. It is anticipated that at the party Congress, he will garner even more support. According to Eurasia Group, who predicted that the majority of his political associates holding seats on the Politburo will increase to 80% from 60% and rise to 57% from 43% in the Politburo's Standing Committee. Xi will presumably increase his share at political associates at the top 2 levels of the Chinese leadership, as reported by CNBC. So, what are your thoughts? Will China be able to recover or not?